Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the All-American Savage Show podcast. I am your host, John Burke. Josh is out of studio today. Yeah, I am holding the phone to the microphone again. My producer is homesick today. If you watched the show yesterday, you were aware that Josh isn't feeling good, so our wishes go out to Josh. He's okay. He's doing good, but he's coughing like crazy. He wanted to stay home and recoup a little bit, so Godspeed to him, and we appreciate and love him for all he does. So I picked Athena up today. I took her over to the groomers, and they essentially blew out her fur, trimmed her nails, cleaned her teeth, cleaned her ears. She had a little spa day today, so she's feeling very proud of herself. When I went to go pick her up, she was like just really giddy, really happy. You can always tell, like she knows when she's like getting pampered, and she enjoys it thoroughly. So, and then the groomer said she did a wonderful job. They were oohing and awing over what a beautiful and well-mannered pup she is. So, fucking love that dog. Love that dog. So, anyway, what's going on? Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Appreciate you being here today. And as you know, the show is sponsored by ShellShockCBD.com. And one thing I wanted to readdress is the golden ticket giveaway that we have for our Delta 8 bars. Now, if you are a subscriber to our chocolate Delta 8 bars called the Delta Bar, once a month we slip a random golden ticket into a random order. And if you win that, you can send it to our email or send a copy of the picture to our email of you holding the ticket. And we're going to give you some pretty cool stuff. So make sure you check that out if you haven't done so already. We appreciate all the love and support we get over there. We have a lot of things coming to you here in the upcoming months, new product releases, various things such as that. So we cannot thank you enough. And also, don't forget to tune in after the show on Twitch. We're giving away another tanker and another Tipsy's Woodwork or Tipsy's & Co. set of the body scrub, the cologne, and the aftershave, all free just for being a subscriber over here on Twitch. And if you're not tracking, download the Twitch app. It is free. And then come follow me at The John Burke. It doesn't cost you a thing. You can come watch. You get access to the content for free either way. But if you subscribe for $4.99 a month, that's pretty easy. That's pretty cheap. You're entered to win a value deal of roughly $150. You cannot beat that. So we greatly appreciate all our love and support over there. So without further ado, a little bit of news to get to. A lot of what's been revolving around the media cycle for the last, 2 weeks. It's more Ukraine. It's more Russia. We have some other topics to tap on here, but I want to get started with this day in history, so let's get into it. That's me doing the musical intro to the This Day in History ad because, without my producer, I'm kind of lost here. So... we miss Josh. We need Josh back. We definitely need him back. Oh my God, it's kind of pathetic at this point. I apologize. I do miss Josh, but on March 10th of 1959, Tibetans band together in revolt surrounding the summer palace of the Dalai Lama in defiance of Chinese occupation forces. China's occupation of Tibet began nearly a decade before, in October of 1950, when troops from its People's Liberation Army, the PLA, invaded the country barely 1 year after the communists gained full control of mainland China. The Tibetan government gave into Chinese pressure the following year, signing a treaty that ensured the power of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the country's spiritual leader, over Tibet's domestic affairs. Resistance to the Chinese occupation built steadily over the next several years, including a revolt in several areas of eastern Tibet in 1956. By December of 1958, rebellion was simmering in Lhasa, the capital, and the PLA command threatened to bomb the city if order was not maintained. In March of 1959, uprising in Lhasa, and excuse me if I mispronounce that, was triggered by fears of a plot to kidnap the Dalai Lama and take him to Beijing. When Chinese military officers invaded His Holiness to visit the PLA headquarters for a theatrical performance and official tea, he was told he must come alone and that no Tibetan military bodyguards or personnel would be allowed past the edges of the military camp. On March 10th, 300,000 loyal Tibetans surrounded Norbolinka Palace, preventing the Dalai Lama from accepting the PLA's invitation. By March 17th, Chinese artillery was aimed at the palace, and the Dalai Lama was evacuated to neighboring India. Fighting broke out in Lhasa 2 days later, with Tibetan rebels hopelessly outnumbered and outgunned early on March 21st. The Chinese began shelling Norbolinka, slaughtering tens of thousands of men, women, and children still camped outside. In the aftermath, the PLA cracked down on Tibetan resistance, executing the Dalai Lama's guards and destroying Lhasa's major monasteries along with thousands of their inhabitants. China's stranglehold on Tibet and its brutal suppression of separatist activity has continued in the decades following the unsuccessful uprising. Tens of thousands of Tibetans followed their leader to India, where the Dalai Lama has long maintained a government in exile in the foothills of the Himalayas. And that is this day in history. Man, interesting to see stuff like that. I wonder why the media, hasn't really brought that up to par in today's day and age, where we see the suppression of people and things such as that. But, again, we go with what the MSM tells us to care about. And once more, when people talk about we should care about freedom, then what about Tibet? What about things that have happened in the past that are still ongoing in this world's history, or the current affairs of what's going on? Again, we're seeing so much media manipulation as to what you're supposed to care about. I saw an article today, and I'm not even kidding you. Let me see if I can find this for you guys. I didn't know if this is real or not. This was an article. Let me see if I can pull it up. There it is. 5 TikTok dances you can do to help fight Ukraine. It's trending right now. And I'm not sure who started this, but it's very interesting to me to see that even people could even take this into consideration as if this is a real thing. You can literally do a dance on TikTok to help support Ukraine. I'm just what? Dude, I don't even know how to respond to these things anymore, because you just look at this as are people actually taking this seriously? And a lot of people actually are. And if you go on TikTok, TikTok is just one of those things that it's an app that will pull you in, because there's some decent content on there. But when people start thinking that your social media slacktivism counts as actually doing something, you're 100% mistaken. It doesn't. So dancing on TikTok, cool, good on you. Makes yourself feel good. Ukrainians don't give a fuck about that. So put that out of your mind if you're considering doing that. It's the same as doing 22 push-ups to curb veteran suicide. It doesn't do shit. It's just virtue signaling to feel good. Doesn't do anything. So keep that in mind. All right. Right now, there is a lot of press going around about President Joe Biden, not just in the Ukraine debacle, but this is coming from Breitbart, and I haven't really looked into this fully yet. They're accusing him of racism, and I want to kind of get to the bottom of this, but it says, Joe Biden says 2 black Texas reps look like they could and did play ball, and he talked about another guy that looks like he can bomb you. Now, with this headline, naturally, we're thinking, okay, bomb you. Is he referring to somebody that looks Middle Eastern in reference to them being a terrorist or something like that? When you actually dig into it, this guy apparently was a Navy pilot. So that kind of stands to reason. So Biden, they're saying, oh, this is racist. No, he was a Navy pilot. This isn't racism. It's saying it looks like he can bomb you. Biden knew this guy's a Navy pilot, and that's what he does. Now, as far as the 2 black representatives, I don't know about that. So I want to read this article and get into this, because if this is the case, Breitbart's way off the mark on this. This is stupid. This is just basically race baiting. And of course, it does happen on the right. There's no denying that. But on Tuesday, His Fraudulency Joe Biden stood before 2 black Texas congressmen and said the 2 of them look like they really could and did play ball. Of a 3rd congressman, he said, and the other one looks like he could bomb you. And here's the full remarks. Jake, you're a fighter pilot. You get this stuff. I mean, you know what I mean. You can smile, Jake. It's okay. Laughter. It's okay. Jake's a Republican, but I like the hell out of him. No, I'm serious. This guy is the real deal. The 3 congressmen you have here, 2 of them look like they could and did play ball, and the other one looks like he can bomb you. The bomb you comment makes sense within the context of LZ's service in the United States Navy as a fighter pilot in both Afghanistan and Iraq. There are only 3 members of Congress Biden could be referring to with this statement. One, of course, was LZ. The other 2 Democrat reps, Mark Veasley and Colin Allred, are both black. Of them, Biden said 2 of them look like they really could and did play ball. Joe Biden's history of naked racism and the use of demeaning racial stereotypes is long and infamous, and the corporate media's history of covering up Joe Biden's use of naked racism and demeaning stereotypes is equally long and infamous. As of now, only new media has called attention to the president's remarks from Tuesday. Thus far, the radically obsessed corporate media are giving him a pass. There's a shocker. The fake media spent 5 years fabricating stories to smear former President Donald Trump as racist, but as I wrote in 2019, no one has to lie to prove Biden's a racist. No one has to misquote him or take him out of context. There might be an innocent explanation for Biden's remarks on Tuesday, but based on his long racist history, he does not deserve the benefit of the doubt. I have to disagree there. You take it case by case. You can't sit there and say because they have a racist history, you take it case by case. Obviously, these comments were off script and were not loaded in the teleprompter that helps the enfeebled Biden stay on track. But look at what he says the moment he goes off script. He sees a couple of black guys and says they look like they really could and did play ball, and the fake media give him a pass. So I've got to ask, is kind of like, Was it because they're big, like big buff dudes? Because I'd be like, yeah, you guys look like you're freaking pro footballers. Or is he talking about like basketball? What's he talking about here? So, I mean, I don't know on this, like, because that's automatically saying that he's saying that just because those two representatives are black or because of their build or their statue. I'm just kind of curious on that one, but I'm not going to immediately jump on that. Well, he's racist. I mean, do I think Biden has racism in his past? Absolutely, he does. Do I think he says racist shit? Absolutely. When he talked about if you don't vote for me, you're not black. You can't sit there and put a monopoly on a skin color and saying that unless they support you, therefore they must not be black. I would have to ask you, like, what does that constitute as far as being black then? I mean, talk about like just categorizing a group of people, saying that you all have to think the same way, and if you don't think the same way and you don't vote for me, then you're not of that group. That's ridiculous. So if these two are like two bigger dudes, and I can't believe I'm on this position right here of like taking Biden's side on this, but I do have to ask, is like, is this actually a racist statement, or is it because of the size of them? I mean, if this is the size, I get it. It's like, yeah, you guys look like you're pro ballers. They look like they play ball. Now, if he's saying it because you're just black, well then yeah, I can understand like that's pretty fucking racist. I get that. But on this one, I don't know. I just don't know. That's weird to me. I can't. I think people want to instantly jump on this to get like leverage against Biden. And here's the thing: you don't have to do that. Like Biden gives you plenty of content on his own. So to see something like this and people are just ready to just chomp at the bit to hold any kind of racist statements from the left. Well, there's plenty of them out there. There's no denying that. But I don't know if this statement in and of itself is racist. Like I think there has to be more description there, and only Biden can answer that one because it's like, hey, why did you say the two black dudes look like they could play ball? I was like, hey, man, because they're tall. They just so happen to be black. It's whatever. If you see like a beefy like bodybuilder dude, it's like you must be a bodybuilder. So I don't know. If I'm wrong on this one, then by all means correct me. And I certainly don't want to accuse somebody of a racist statement when the statement is not founded in racism. And again, the Navy pilot one, that makes sense. He was a freaking Navy pilot. That makes sense. So, there's tweets and stuff here. So I think this is kind of like unclear. So before you pick one side or the other, it's like, okay, then he should probably make clarifying remarks on this. But also, I mean, he does have a history of racist stuff. There's no denying that. But you got to take it case by case. And the reason I say that is because of this situation right here. If these weren't racist remarks, then I don't know. That's just me. But I saw this circulating around social media. People are accusing him of being a racist, yada, yada, yada. I mean, he's got a lot of other things he's said in the past, so I don't know. Somebody said, John, are you in True Social yet? Actually, I was going to ask the audience, have y'all received any updates? Because they just asked me to verify my phone number on the Shell Shock account. I created my own personal account, and they said they'd expedite my list number or whatever. I'm still 206,000. I can hit the refresh button now. It seems to work, but it's not changing my number. But yes, I am on True Social. I have not had an account created yet. They said they have reserved my name. But no, I'm still on the wait list like everybody else. But I did have this notification today talking about verify your SMS and yada, yada, yada. So that's where I stand now. But, once I get on True Social, I'll let you guys know. My account over there is already John Burke. It's already been established. The name's been reserved, thankfully. So I do wonder, it does beg the question of, though, all the people that were banned in the past, we're talking about Alex Jones, Milo Yiannopoulos, even Nick Fuentes, whom I disagree with adamantly on a lot of topics. I wonder if Truth Social is going to at least allow them to have a platform. And I think they should. As much as I disagree with a lot of these people, I think if Truth Social wants to go the opposite direction of where big tech is going, you need to let these people on your platform. You have to. And, don't take into account what the leftist media. I mean, the leftist media is going to slander Truth Social just like they did Parler, just like they did Getter. They said they're a platform that hosts all these racists and pedophiles, blah, blah, and that's not the case. But the fact is, anything that gets started up that goes against leftist big tech-owned monopolies, the press is going to smear. They're absolutely going to smear. In fact, DuckDuckGo, sorry to see this one, DuckDuckGo has just announced they're essentially going to start censoring Russian propaganda. James Woods tweeted this out, and I like James Woods. I would love to have this guy on the podcast, but he's harder to get a hold of than anybody I've ever seen before. But James Woods had tweeted this out because it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, wait, what? Where's it at? Let me find this. Here we go. James Woods is popping up, and he hasn't been active on Twitter for a while. But sorry about this. Oh, he's been active today, that's for sure. I'm trying to find out where the actual, I think it was the CEO. Come on. Of course, the day I say that he hasn't been tweeting much, he's tweeting like crazy. Unless he, deleted it. But essentially, somebody from DuckDuckGo had talked about basically trying to limit misinformation and pull down Russian propaganda, yada, yada, yada. DuckDuckGo, unfortunately, seems to be going the way of Google. It starts with this. So it's sad to see that. Don't censor it. Let it be. Let people decide for themselves. Let them discover their own information and decide for themselves. Don't manipulate the data. Don't manipulate the algorithms. Just let it be. That's why all these other, it just doesn't stand to reason why these big tech companies don't seem to get it through their thick skulls. The moment you go about doing this, you're going to start losing a lot of credibility. You're eventually going to, honestly, go the way of the other big tech apps, and people are going to lose trust in you. I mean, I know Elijah from Blaze TV had talked about how Getter was a scam. Joe Rogan came out and said Getter wasn't right, yada, yada, yada. Getter took a pounding. And now Truth Social seems to be on the rise, but there's just such a massive wait list. Everybody's getting kind of sick and tired of waiting, but I received an email from them about a week or so ago talking about how they're just trying to make sure that they're doing real-time bug fixes to make sure the platform is stable as people continue coming in. So we'll see. I'm not really sure. Go Brave browser. I'll have to check that one. People in the Twitch chat are telling me about that, so I'll have to go look at that one. But anyway, back to the Biden thing. Again, it would require clarification to see, why did you say that about them? But ultimately, how do those two black congressmen feel? Did they feel like he was discriminating against them? Did they feel like he was being racist? Because I don't know. I just whatever. Also in the news, Russia hits back at sanctions with export ban. Now, Russia is fighting fire with fire. Russia has banned exports of more than 200 types of products in retaliation for Western sanctions on Moscow. Telecom, medical, agricultural, electrical, and technology equipment, among other items, will be affected by the ban, which runs until the end of 2022. It follows harsh Western sanctions on Russia's financial system and energy in response to its war in Ukraine. A growing number of Russian oligarchs have also been hit with assets, freezes, and travel bans. Other items covered by Russia's export ban include cars, railway carriages, containers, and turbines. This is something that's probably going to be a topic on Drunken Debates this weekend. As far as we're seeing the censorship, we're seeing the attacks on Russian citizens. Is this the right direction that NATO and EU and the rest of the world needs to go? Should we be pulverizing the Russian populace based upon the actions of the president? It's a very in-depth question. I understand how people on both sides of this saying, that's who they elected, supposedly. That's their leader. When he goes a certain direction, they have to pay with it. Or is it their leader has gone rogue, he's clearly a tyrant, and then the Russian people should not have to pay for this? So it's a very complex question. That probably will be a debate topic on this panel coming up. But we're seeing more and more how the Russian people are just being slammed. McDonald's withdrew. Now there are reports that there's a lot of people hoarding food because they're afraid of essentially more bans, more things coming in like that, and it's going to limit a lot of the things over there. And again, the ruble it's been destroyed. You look at the stock market over in Russia. I don't know if it's still frozen, but it's come to a crawl. And these people are just trying to live. Meanwhile, you've got Russia over there doing this invasion of Ukraine. The Russian people are like, we don't want to deal with this. We don't want this. We don't want war. And of course, it's mixed. It's mixed. That's what I'm saying. I've said before, yesterday, this is why we should stay out of it. This is a mixture of just so many different things. It's very intricate. It's not so simplified as a lot of people want to make you believe it is. And it's really not. But also in the news comes from inflation reaches new high as consumer prices jump 7.9%, highest in 4 decades. Inflation climbed to another 4-decade high in February, with prices expected to push even higher on the back of soaring energy prices following the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The Department of Labor said the consumer price index rose 7.9% compared with a year ago. Prices were up 0.8% compared with the prior month. This is the 9th straight month of inflation above 5%. Prices rose at an annual rate of 7.5% in January, jumping to 0.6% from December. Economists had forecasted CPI to rise by 0.7% for the month and 7.8% compared within a year. The index for all items, less food and energy, often called core CPI, rose 0.5% in February compared to last year. It was one of the fastest pace this measure since August of 1982. These figures do not take into account the recent surge in oil and gasoline prices. These are likely to push inflation even higher in March. And of course, you know what's going to fix this, ladies and gentlemen. We know what's going to fix this. I mean, I would assume you do. Here's the fix. This is coming from Elizabeth Warren, chief full of shitum. Big oil's first priority is to maximize profits. Okay, well, let's take that statement alone. Yes, as a business owner, your goal is to maximize profits as much as you possibly can. To fault an oil company for doing what it does is kind of ridiculous in my mind. It's like, oh, those bastards, they're trying to make a profit. They're trying to maximize their profit. Oh, how dare they? It's also their second priority, third priority, and on and on and on. I'm very curious in understanding or getting her opinion on what other priorities should they have. We can't let them use Putin's invasion as an excuse to pad their bottom line with war-fueled profits. So I'm working with Senate Democrats on a windfall profits tax. Once again, we're going to tax the rich. We're going to tax these companies. We're going to tax them even harder. Tax. For you to do what with that money? For you to do what with that money exactly? Misspend it? They're creating jobs. You're not. Your administration is destroying jobs. That's crazy to me. To fix this, it's not tax them heavier. This is stupid. And of course, yesterday, President Biden, or Tuesday, Biden basically said there's no end in sight for this gas price hike. None. It's Russia's fault, is what he's saying. And everybody's trying to say that no, it's not, has nothing to do with the Keystone Pipeline, nothing to do with not being able to drill here. That's interesting to me. Every single one of these Democrats on the left that are sitting there, especially on Twitter, trying to tweet out, this has nothing to do with it. It 100% has everything to do with it. 100%. We only import 8% of Russian oil. That's 8% for 350 million people. I mean, that's a lot. I get it. But at the same token, you can't sit here and just deny the fact that the Biden administration has everything to do with this. It's not Biden directly. When you have the Bureau of Land Management and stuff like this getting involved, saying you can't drill, there's over 4,500 permits awaiting to be approved for people to drill, and they're just sitting there. Yes, your administration has a lot to do with this. You're at the core of this. But Democrats are going to double down on this propaganda to deflect any attention to their beloved God King Joe Biden. Look, why are you doing this, Democrats? I genuinely have to ask. Why are you protecting him? How could you remain loyal to this president at this point? It's beyond me. This guy and his administration are on fire. It is a burning dumpster. You continually trying to defend him, trying to blame, if it's not, here's the deal. If you say the Biden administration has nothing to do with inflation and the gas price and stuff like that, then please elaborate for me just who is to blame. I'll acknowledge the fact that inflation did come from a lot of the Fed printing out more money. Governors across the country sending their states into lockdowns, 100%. We knew this was coming. I mean, I sat here and I called this for the last 2 years, and nobody, I shouldn't say nobody believed me, but getting out there and saying, look, I understand that you're wanting to save lives, stay home, all that shit, but now you're dealing with the ramifications of what those 2 years of lockdowns created. So there's a lot of people to blame. Under the Trump administration, but currently under Biden's administration. If you want to fix this, the problem you inherited is now your problem. And you're only adding to it. For 2 years, businesses went under. Jobs got destroyed. All because of stay at home, save a life. And I sat there and I screamed. I was like, what is this going to do to the economy in the long run? You're going to have more people from the middle class drop into the lower economic class. Of the lower economic class, I mean, nobody wants to go back to work. It's very difficult right now. Luckily in Texas, they just freaking came out and said about the unemployment, if you're qualified to work, you better go work. Businesses are opening. You have no reason not to go get a job. None. And there's jobs everywhere. They really are. There's jobs everywhere here in Texas. I mean, shit, it's hard to even find good work here at Shell Shock. It's crazy to me. But for 2 years, I sat here talking about this. Stay at home, save a life. We don't want to die. Okay, fair enough. Then stay home. It should have been freedom to choose from the get-go. If you didn't want to work because you were afraid of COVID, then stay home. Quit your job, stay home. But let the economy continue to just do its thing. And now you've got inflation higher than it's ever been in 40 years. Gas is through the fucking roof. Now you got people like Elizabeth Warren wanting to continue raising taxes on these profit taxes. It's insanity. All that is, it's not the rich paying their fair share. It's the government getting more money. It's what's at the root of this. And people don't realize that. It sounds good. All these socialists say, yeah, tax the rich harder. What that translates to is give the government more money. Because it's not a good chunk of this is not going into these other areas of America where it needs to be spent. Matter of fact, it leads us to the next thing, the next point. Conservatives vote against banning Russian oil without boosting American energy production. And I agree with this. The House moved to ban importation of Russian gas on Wednesday night. However, many Republicans voted against the bill as it would not boost American energy production to offset rising energy costs. We got Pattern for Lives in the chat. Said, my boss is parking our truck. He says it's not worth him running his trucks right now. We have 25 trucks, and he announced today that the price to run them just isn't worth it anymore. Plus, doesn't help our customers are willing to pay the difference due to inflation. And a lot of these libtards want the businesses to eat the cost, which is funny. They don't realize we just pass it down to the line. I've talked about, number one, I'm sorry to hear that for you. I genuinely am. That sucks. I really am sorry about that. But you're 100% dead on the money. Consumers, by and large, are not going to be happy with a lot of these prices being passed down to the consumers. Elizabeth Warren doesn't seem to understand. If they want to tax these oil companies harder, they're just going to raise costs. They're not going to eat that cost. They're not going to take that loss. I've described this many times. If my manufacturer on CBD oil says, hey, the government is, raising taxes, now it's going to cost you $10 more on top of what we already charge you. That's cutting into my margins. What am I doing? I'm passing that down to the consumers. Like, hey, guys, I'm sorry, but I cannot afford to stay in business if I keep costs the same way. I'm actually be losing money at some point. So I've got to increase costs. Actually, I shouldn't say I'd be losing money. My margins, my profit margin would drop drastically to the point where I don't know if I can afford overhead anymore. I have to start laying people off. Or I try and pass that price point down to the consumer, and the consumer's going to be pissed. It's like, look, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. They're taxing the hell out of me. What do you expect me to do? Again, this is the government. This is the government at fault. This is what they do. The House moved to ban the importation of Russian gas on Wednesday night. However, many Republicans voted against the bill as it would not boost American energy production to offset rising energy costs. No, Biden's out there talking to Venezuela and Saudi Arabia. The House passed on H.R. 6968, the Suspending Energy Imports from Russia Act. The vote featured overwhelming support for the bill, gaining 414 votes for the measure and 17 Republicans and Democrats against the bill. The legislation would ban the importation of Russian oil and natural gas into the United States, revisiting Russia's role in the World Trade Organization, WTO, and reauthorize the Magnitsky Act to increase sanctions on Russia for alleged human rights violations. Two progressive lawmakers, Cory Bush and Ilhan Omar, voted against the bill. Reps Andy Biggs, a lot of dudes voted against the legislation. Massey said in a statement on Wednesday he will oppose the bill because it would not boost American domestic energy production. He said, I'm voting against the oil sanctions bill. Biden has no plan to enable development of traditional domestic energy sources. His plan is to buy oil from dictators in other countries and to use high gas prices to bludgeon American consumers into adopting a leftist energy agenda, he explained. I can see this. It doesn't make sense to sit there and say, like Jen Psaki talking about, well, if these companies want to drill, let them drill. Well, number one, you've got Warren out there wanting to tax them higher. And again, you got 4,500 permits waiting to be approved. That's on your administration. The canceling of the Keystone Pipeline, all this plays a factor. Whether you want to believe it or not, all of this plays a factor on the world economic stage, 100%. This is insane to me. Even Lauren Boebert said cutting off Russian oil is the right move. Doing so without increasing American energy production is insanity, and I agree. Representative Major Marjorie Taylor Greene said, at least there are two of us who refuse to allow Biden to hurt Americans suffering from rapidly rising gas prices. She responded to Thomas Massey saying he's voting against it. I honestly feel they're right. This should be a two-step plan. Step one, how can we increase American production? How can we wean ourselves off of foreign? Here's the thing. Trump did it. I don't see it's like, hey, you know what? Smart. Let's go back to what Trump was doing because it clearly worked. And then step two is ban Russian oil. Fair enough. But Biden right now is wanting to ban Russian oil without a backup plan. That's going to spike prices even more. Or he's hoping to broker a deal just in enough time. Guys, girl, I'm at a loss. I'm really at a loss with this administration. I'm really at a loss for this administration. I really am. I don't like higher gas prices. I don't like any of this stuff. I also don't like the banning of anything, to tell you the truth. They're sanctioning stuff, especially tariffs and things like that. I get it. I understand it. But it's like the more that we fuck with free trade, the more we fuck it up. But hey, no more mean tweets. That's good. Oh, my God. I'm just over it. I'm just really over it. All right. Jen Psaki in the news, as per usual. Jen Psaki says Russia could use chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said on Wednesday, the Biden administration will be actively monitoring for Russia to use biological or chemical weapons in Ukraine after Vladimir Putin accused the West of harboring a biological weapons program in the country. Now, I've seen a few people out there trying to deny the fact that there were actual bio-research facilities that are American-funded in Ukraine. Do you really believe this? I mean, our own government is denying it, but it's kind of like Crenshaw made a post of the truth about it. And of course, the Pentagon's denying it. Of course they're going to deny it. But the fact is, I think it was a member of NATO actually confirmed it. I forget what her name is. She was a speaker over there, and she said, yes, it's fallen into Russian hands. Just sitting here like, I'm just kind of like, okay. Let me ask you a question. What's the difference between Russia, China, and America news outlets? They all feed propaganda. We have gone down this rabbit hole of not just left versus right propaganda, but it's propaganda by the government to the people. To the people. It's sad. It's fucking sad. You really think the Pentagon is going to tell us the truth? You didn't even tell us the truth about Fauci and the gain-of-function research that was in China until those emails were leaked. And then it's like, oh, well, I mean, let me walk you back a few months, if not a year or so. The Fauci emails got leaked, confirming he knew that the masks didn't work, but we're going to do it anyway. Confirming there was a $600,000 grant given to Wuhan Lab from America, approved by Fauci for gain-of-function research on coronavirus and shit like that. And they lied to us. They lied to us. So you'll pardon me if you're pearl clutching and gasping at the fact that we don't believe you now when you say there isn't biological research facilities in Ukraine. You'll forgive me if I don't believe a fucking word you say. And it wouldn't even surprise me if Fauci was part of what's going on in the Ukrainian. Like, I really don't know. I know that's a far stretch, but it wouldn't surprise me. So I'm sorry, government. You lied about that. And then when Rand Paul confronts Fauci about that, he tries changing the definition of what gain-of-function research actually means. And Rand Paul called him on it. I remember watching the testimony, and he grilled Fauci. Where is Fauci now? He's kind of AWOL. He just kind of faded away. Because we got Ukraine in the news. There's nothing really Fauci out there. Man, you can't even deny it at this point. The government is lying. And that's why I said, if you want to go fight and die in Ukraine, you be my guest. But this is government at its core fucking with the international stage and something that we should have nothing to do with. Nothing to do with. I mean, at heart, if you think about it, it's America and China that are responsible for COVID. We funded the research. It's insane. It's sad to see this. It's honestly sad to see this. But this is why I've told y'all, do not trust your government. And as social media expands, and they're trying to censor it more and more, but we're starting to see firsthand just how much the government has lied to us on both sides. If there's anything that should unite the left and the right, it should be the lies the government has perpetuated against us. I know the left is, they're all about equality, inclusivity, all of these things, and I get it. I understand there's a need for that. Not as much so as they think there is, but I understand where they're coming from in a lot of it, and much of which I disagree with. There is no oppression in America. It's ridiculous. But I think the one thing that could unite us and bridge the divide is to sit there and look at the government saying, you're fucking lying. You are lying about this. We've been lied to so many damn times. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said on Wednesday the Biden administration will be actively monitoring Russia, blah, 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 blah. Russia sparked a firestorm this week when it alleged that American labs were researching biological weapons in Ukraine, as Breitbart News profiled. The Foreign Ministry of Russia claimed on Tuesday that the nation's military had confirmed the existence of American-funded biological laboratories in Ukraine used for developing biological weapons. Russian troops reportedly found documentation showing Ukrainian scientists destroying evidence of plague, anthrax, rabbit fever, cholera, and other lethal diseases studied in the country's laboratories on February 24th, according to a statement from Foreign Ministry spokesman Maria Zakharova, as part of their ongoing assault on the country. U.S. Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland confirmed in a congressional hearing on Tuesday that the biological research facilities were in Ukraine and feared that Russia could take control. There you go. That's who it was. So again, the U.S. Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland confirmed. Let me see if I can pull up this article. Yeah. This is her actually confirming it. Now, I can't play the audio because we don't have it set up on the thing, but basically, she's I will share the link in chat for you guys to go watch on your own. Here is the link. There we go. Y'all can go research that for yourselves. Let me see if it has subtitles on this video. Oh, never mind. It's a long freaking... Anywho. And people are like, well, Russia lies. Well, America lies too. Which one do we believe? I mean... which one do we believe? U.S. Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland confirmed in a congressional hearing on Tuesday that biological research facilities were in Ukraine and feared that Russia could take control. Now, I don't know if she said that they were U.S.-backed ones, but they are there. Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach, she said. On Wednesday, Psaki issued a lengthy statement on Twitter rebuking Russia's conspiracy theories, asserting that the United States has been in full compliance with its obligations under the Chemical Weapons Convention and the Biological Weapons Convention and does not develop or possess such weapons anywhere. Bullshit. Bullshit. The simple existence of a Wuhan lab disproves what she just said. If you would pay for this research in Wuhan, China, and you basically got it over in Ukraine to where they have their own thing, I mean, come on. This is how stupid they think you are, ladies and gentlemen. This is how ignorant they think you are. Oh, that wasn't the link to it? Hold on. My bad, guys. That wasn't... Okay, hold on. Here's the link. There is the link. Sorry about that. Jesus. It's Russia that has a long and well-documented track record of using chemical... All this is deflection. This is a deflection. It's Russia that has a long and well-documented track record of using chemical weapons, including in attempted assassinations and poisoning of Putin's political enemies like Alex Navalny, Psaki said. Well, we're not denying that. But let's not even sit here and pretend like there is not a biological weapons race. There 100% is, because they know how deadly it is, especially after COVID. Especially after COVID. If you really think that governments around this world are not experimenting with biological weapons, you are out of your fucking mind. 100% they do. 100% they do. Because if China's doing it, America's got to do it. If Russia's doing it, China's got to do it. If Iran's doing it, everybody's got to do it. Because now you're at a disposition to where they have a leg up on you. Nuke, that's dangerous, but a biological weapon that can infect and wipe out an entire population, that's 10 times more deadly. It's not going to get you the immediate results you want, but look at our economy right now with 2 years of closing. Think about it. Think about it. If it's Russia that continues to support the Assad regime in Syria, which has repeatedly used chemical weapons. It's Russia that has long maintained a biological weapons program in violation of international law, she continued. Also, Russia has a track record of accusing the West of very violations that Russia itself is perpetrating. America kind of does the same thing, Saki. America kind of does the same thing. Psaki asserted that Russia was setting the stage for a biological chemical weapons attack that could be used as a false flag operation. Now that Russia has made these false claims and China has seemingly endorsed this propaganda, we should all be on the lookout for Russia to possibly use chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine or to create a false flag operation using them. It's a clear pattern, she concluded. Or maybe both governments are corrupted at the core, and essentially it's you, the people, that are going to go fight and die for these governments that just keep fucking lying to the people. I don't know about you, but I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with it. So if you want to go fight and die for it, then be my guest. Psaki is the biggest mouthpiece. Like I'm at a loss with her. Oh my God. All right, so if you're watching on the Twitter, or excuse me, on the Twitch feed, stuff like that, apparently this is a video. Viewer discretion is advised. Please keep that in mind. This is kind of a graphic video. It's showing Russian tanks taking a beating from Ukrainian fighters. This is coming from MSN.com. Drone footage shows Russian tanks come under attack in Kiev suburbs. Ukrainian's Defense Intelligence Service said significant losses in personnel and equipment were caused to a Russian tank regiment in the village of Skybin on the eastern outskirts of Kiev. Footage posted to Twitter shows a large convoy of stationary tanks in Skybin before several explosions are seen. The convoy then moves into the position directly to Kiev, as smoke is seen rising from a number of damaged tanks. All right, so again, viewer discretion is advised. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, here you go. We'll watch this together. You see the explosion. Jesus. Looks like tanks pushing to Kiev. There's a destroyed tank there. Oh, shit. You've got tanks in a column. You got two columns there. Stupid move on their part. Your ducks in a row. Like, Jesus. Whoever the freaking commander on the ground of this, it just, wow. And it looks as if they're withdrawing or continuing to push. I don't know. But they funneled themselves. Jesus. It's crazy. There's the video. Now, there's more circulating on MSM out there, but you can clearly see whoever this commander was, essentially putting them in a column and then stacking them so tightly in that one place, they're getting hit from the front and the back. Yeah, classic choke point, Black Dog, I agree. You see this? Like right there. Your tanks are lined up, two sides of that road. You're bottlenecked. You're a sitting duck. All you got to do is take out those front and those back. I mean, there's still enough wiggle room that those tanks can get out of there, but you've essentially just created a smaller... You created a big target is what you've done. You've got tanks right there in a row. But again, I don't know the backstory behind this. I don't know why you'd ever do that, especially if you're like in an invasion force in a country that does not like you. You're just begging for it at this point. So, yeah. It's crazy. So taxes. We're going to raise taxes, right? Well, you got to love this. House passes bill offering nearly $14 billion in aid to Ukraine. The money is part of a sweeping spending bill that funds the U.S. government through the fiscal year. The House of Representatives voted to approve a $1.5 trillion spending bill that funds the government through September 30th and includes $13.6 billion in aid to Ukraine amid the war with Russia. The defense portion passed by a vote of 361 to 69, and the domestic portion passed by a vote of 260 to 171. with one present vote. The House voted after months of stalling and debate as Congress faced a Friday deadline to approve government funding or risk a shutdown. You know, I genuinely wonder, and this is just me hypothesizing, if you will, if the government were to shut down for, like, say, a month, I'd be very interested in seeing what happens to the economy. I know it's not going to be a lot of, I mean, you have to have a governing body. There is no doubt about that. I'm not for anarchy. But considering how inept this administration is, I do wonder what would happen if the government just shut down. I kind of want to see it. Like, I'd love to see that. It's like, yeah, good, shut it down. Fuck them. I mean, we should make that a shirt to fund the government. Don't pay taxes. The House voted after months of stalling and debate as Congress faced a Friday deadline to approve government funding or risk a shutdown. An early version of the bill released Wednesday morning, there was $15 billion appropriation for pandemic relief. But because of internal friction among Democrats and opposition from Republicans, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was forced to push back the expected vote on the package and remove the COVID-19 funds. As a result, Democrats missed their planned departure to Philadelphia on Wednesday for a conference retreat. Members told Fox News Digital that delays surrounding the bill had to do with major concerns about coronavirus funding, as well as defense spending levels and the short amount of time to review the content of the 2,741-page measure just hours before they were expected to approve it. They're putting together these packages of thousands of pages that these congressional representatives do not have time to read through. This is just how corrupted our government is. It is heartbreaking to remove the COVID funding, and we must continue to fight for remove the COVID funding based on the fiscal damage that you have created. The government has created this. At heart, at the root of all this, it's always government. It is always government fucking it up. We will go back to the Rules Committee to remove COVID funding and accommodate the revised bill. We must proceed with the omnibus today, which includes emergency funding for Ukraine and urgent funding to meet the needs of American families. Some members said they were very upset that states that California and New York were protected from the plan to offset the spending from other states. Republicans insisted that there be spending offsets in the legislation, what meant that some COVID-19 spending was to be paid for with cuts to previously approved coronavirus aid to certain states. Oh, how nice of them. How nice. You know, it just gets to a point where you got to ask yourselves, like, talk about one of the most inept administrations I have ever seen. Even the Obama administration was not this bad. It was not nearly this bad. But I'm telling you, watch. I sincerely hope Russia does not resort to any type of chemical weapons use. If they do, I really feel like that will pull us in. I think that will pull the UN in. I really do. Because now you've got basically a reason where everybody in the world will say, okay, you're using chemical weapons. Absolutely not. That's too far. Which is kind of ironic to me. It's because, like, you're killing people, but then it's the manner of how they're killing people that bothers them. I get both sides of that, but at the same token, it's just like, oh my God. And I think that everybody's pushing that if Putin does wind up taking Ukraine, then he's not going to stop there. You know, even Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is sitting there saying that if Putin does conquer us, he's not going to stop. He's going to want more. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of lies being told from Russia, Ukraine, and America, and UN. I think there's a lot of lying going on here. A lot of misinformation, a lot of propaganda. We don't know what to believe anymore. It's just crazy to me. So, but all right, y'all. That concludes today's podcast. I got to get back to work. I appreciate y'all's love and support. Don't go away, because as soon as we end the episode, I'm going to relaunch the stream on Twitch and Twitch alone, and we're going to give away another tankard with the Tipsies & Co. body wash, cologne, and aftershave. If being a subscriber on Twitch, you're automatically entered, and I appreciate your love and support over there. Make sure you go give the podcast a good review. Sorry it's a little bit shorter today, but honestly, the news is just regurgitating the same talking points over, and I'm looking at this stuff, and it's like, okay, there's nothing really new to cover. And we're going to talk about more stuff tomorrow when Josh comes back as well. But also, make sure you set your clocks for Drunken Debates this Saturday at 7 p.m. CST. Looking forward to that. We got some new panelists coming on. And we appreciate your love and support. So until next time, I will talk to you later. And as always, you stay safe.